Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new to See Mindy Mom, welcome to my kitchen. Today I am sharing with you several ways to use leftovers to create new meals with food that you have already cooked. All right, you guys, occasionally I get comments on my channel where people are telling me that their family won't eat leftovers or their spouse won't eat leftovers, or they're really impressed with the way that we use up leftovers in our house because that wouldn't happen in their household. And this isn't me trying to wag my finger and say, be good stewards and use up everything that you have. I know that everybody's got to make decisions about what works best for them. But I thought maybe I would just give you some ideas for how I use leftovers to create different meals for us that we will eat, that my kids will eat, that my husband will eat, and that we actually enjoy. So the other night we were supposed to host a few couples from work for a dinner, and we had to reschedule that for a few reasons, but I already had a pork roast going in the crock pot. And if you want to know how I made that, I will leave a link in the description box below to the recipe that I use for pork roast. It's a recipe where you brine the pork roast for about 24 hours and then you cook it in the slow cooker for a long time. It turns out great for me every time, and I think I've even made a few videos where I featured this pork roast in some recipes before, so I'll see if I can find that and leave it linked in the description box for you. But all that's to say, the roast was already going in the crock pot, so I knew that I had to go ahead and complete the cooking, and we ate it that night. And now I have a lot of it left over that I need to find a use for. I don't even know how much this is. This is like really heavy. It seems like a small container. How much does this weigh? Let's find out. 34 ounces, so that's a little over 2 pounds, right? Yeah, a little over 2 pounds of cooked meat that I need to find a use for. So I'm gonna share with you some of the ways that I use up something like this from my refrigerator, and I do think this works for all different kinds of meat. I've done these types of meals with shredded chicken, I've done them with taco meat, I've done them with beef, like leftover roast. So let's jump into this and I'll show you my ideas. So it's actually Sunday when I'm filming this, and the kids are on their way home from church with their dad. I went to worship and then came home, and the kids went to Sunday school. So my husband's bringing them home now, and when they walk in the door, they're going to be hungry. So we are going to whip up some easy quesadillas. I like to assemble quesadillas directly on the griddle or the pan that I'm cooking them in. I do this for grilled cheese sandwiches as well. I just find it to be easier than trying to assemble it to the side and then cook it. So I also like to use shredded cheese because I feel like it just melts quicker than like a sliced cheese. And I almost always use some whipped cream cheese if I have it, just like I do with grilled cheese sandwiches, because it just helps the other tortilla to stick to the ingredients in the quesadillas. So when I flip it over to cook the other side, it doesn't make a big, huge mess. So here you have it. I just have my quesadillas here for the kiddos with some pretzels and some veggies. They usually really like these, easy to make and a great way to use up some leftovers. Next, I am going to create some lunch preps for my husband and myself this week, and I'm actually going to use up some other stuff that we have hanging out in our fridge along with the pulled pork. So my husband brought home some leftover Chipotle from work the other day. They were catering, I think, a staff lunch. So I still have a little bit of brown rice and then some of this corn salsa that came home. So to jazz this up, I went through my crisper, my vegetable crisper in my fridge, and just looked for some things that I could add to it. And I have one lone little Roma tomato that I'm going to chop up, and also a green bell pepper, and then a lime. So I'll just chop those things up and add it to the corn salsa, and then squeeze some lime juice and add some salt and pepper to that, and it'll make kind of like a pico / corn salsa. So then I can assemble these with brown rice and some of the pulled pork and then some of the salsa. And to go along with that, I'm going to make some Copycat Chewy's jalapeno ranch dip, and I'll show you how I'm doing that.
So you're in a hurry, well, you better calm down. We're all friends around you, just join the fun. 'Cause if you're in a hurry, you're missing the point. Should enjoy the fruits of life instead of chasing coins.
To make the Chewy's jalapeno dip, or the copycat version that I make, I'm starting with about a cup of whole milk plain Greek yogurt. You could use sour cream if you wanted. It's just, I usually make it with this because it tastes the same to me. I'm going to add a tablespoon of ranch seasoning. I make mine homemade. If you want to know how I do that, there's a video linked in the description box. Actually, I'll put in probably about 1.5 tablespoons. I have 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm not worried about chopping everything up because it's gonna get put in my Ninja mixer. So there we go. The juice from 1 lime. And then this is a teeny tiny jalapeno. It's a little one that came in my Imperfect box. I'm just gonna cut the stem off of it and just throw it in whole like this, because like I said, it's gonna go in the blender. And just a dash of milk, like maybe a tablespoon or so. I'm gonna blend that up in my Ninja blender, and then I will have some yummy, creamy jalapeno dip for my lunch preps and for some other things that we will probably eat this week.
It's a beautiful day. Come on, let's play.
Another great way to use up leftovers that we utilize in our house all the time is nachos, especially leftover meat, because there's lots of different kinds of leftover meat that goes really well on tortilla chips with cheese. I mean, is there anything that won't taste delicious on tortilla chips with cheese? So I have some pulled pork here and then some shredded cheese. I was probably just using up the ends of various blocks of cheese that I had in the refrigerator. I used some black beans, pop those into the microwave, and then I'm gonna finish those off with a little salsa and some non-fat plain Greek yogurt. And there you have it, delicious nachos. And here I'm just making some grilled cheese sandwiches, but I added the pulled pork to the grilled cheese sandwiches. I've done this with lunch meat, I've done this with bacon, I've done this with pulled pork, with roast beef. Again, using the whipped cream cheese to kind of help the sandwich hold together whenever I flip it on the griddle, but this is another great way to use up leftover meat that you might have in your kitchen. And here I'm actually making a ramen stir fry. This was sort of an impromptu dinner one night for myself, and it was really delicious. So I started with a little bit of the pulled pork in the pan and heated that up so that some of the fat would render, and then I sauteed some chopped bell peppers with that I had hanging out in my refrigerator, needed to be used up. I cooked my ramen noodles on the stove, and then I added those to my pot with the meat and the veggies, and then I seasoned this how I wanted it. I just added like some garlic powder, onion powder, salt and pepper, a little red pepper flake. I didn't use the seasoning packet from the ramen, I just seasoned this how I wanted it, and it turned out really great. I really enjoyed this, and it's something that I will definitely make again. I am making a barbecue pulled pork pizza, and I made a pizza crust using my bread maker on the dough cycle, and I just used the recipe that came with the booklet that came with the bread maker, but I have made this using little naan breads, using a store-bought crust, using flour tortillas. You can use whatever crust that you want to use, but I'm using barbecue sauce instead of a marinara, and then I am putting my toppings underneath the cheese. I don't know why, I just always assemble my pizzas that way. I like the cheese on top. So I'm using some of my pulled pork, some black beans, some pineapple, yes, you heard that right, and some shredded cheese, which in this case I think is like an Italian blend, and then some Monterey Jack cheese as well. I popped this into the oven at 350 for about 15 to 17 minutes. I needed this to cook just a little bit longer than some of my other pizza recipes because this is a little bit of a thicker crust than I normally use, but this turned out fantastic, as it usually does. I have made this style of pizza many times before, and I even used a little bit of my creamy jalapeno ranch on top of this pizza that I had made the night before, and I just had it with a side of sauteed bell peppers. Yummy. And here I am just making up an egg scramble, and I'm realizing now that bell peppers were the veggie of the week. I'm using those in so many of these recipes because I really like them, and I must have had a bunch of them hanging out in the fridge whenever I was filming this a couple of weeks ago. So here I just have some of the pulled pork and the bell peppers sauteing together, and then I added an egg and just scrambled that alongside it. And you could eat that on its own, or I actually put it in a couple of tortillas and had this as breakfast burritos, and it was just really great and a really easy weeknight dinner that I could throw together for myself, or a lunch or a breakfast. And that's a great way to use up leftovers as well. And one of our favorite ways to use over leftover chicken, leftover beef, pork, taco meat is to put it on top of a baked potato. And I can bake potatoes in the oven. I actually have learned how to make baked potatoes in the crock pot. You just wrap them in foil and let them cook in the crock pot all day. So it's a great summer meal as well, but this is a great way to use up leftovers, and you can add whatever else you want from your refrigerator, freezer, or pantry to kind of round out this meal. But there you have it. That gives you some ideas for how you can use up leftovers or recreate them in different meals. I hope that this gave you some ideas and some inspiration. Feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know how you use up leftovers in your house. I'll see you guys again very soon with another video. Bye.